What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Build a Mind podcast. We are here with Jurgen Nitter. Jurgen is a teacher in the art of ASIC repair, and this is obviously our first in-person episode. I'm a little nervous. I'm also very excited, so I think you're also a little nervous too.
A little bit.
Little bit. All right. Well, we're gonna roll with the punches, guys. We're here at the mining conference in Brainerd, Minnesota. I almost said Nashville for some reason because I had that stuck in my head. We're not in Nashville. We're in Brainerd, Minnesota, doing the mining conference put on by Bitcoin Mining World. Everybody here is interested in Bitcoin mining, in the world of mining in general. There's a lot of people in the industry side. Myself, I'm a pleb. Most of the audience knows that I am a pleb miner. I get into the heat side of things, the heat reuse aspect, and why I believe that's the future of Bitcoin mining. Jurgen, you're a repair technician, so maybe we can dive into a little bit of your background and what you see as the importance of Bitcoin. But before that, I want to start with just an introduction on who you are. You are the head of research and development at ASIC Repair Parts, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and the last job that you were doing, you were the chief executive officer or CTO?
CTO.
CTO, and this was Let's Fucking Go Mining, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we love that. We love that for you. Um, you are a Purdue educated ASIC maintenance technician with 3 years, correct, of electronics experience or years of electronics experience, but only
Lifetime.
3.
Yeah. A lifetime and just 3 years in the ASIC
Okay.
field.
Okay, so just give us a little bit of your history. When did you come to Bitcoin and what got you? Obviously, you've got the experience in electronics, but what kind of made you do the shift from standard electronics to ASIC repair?
Well, I have a sleep disorder. It's I tell people it's narcolepsy because it's too hard to explain otherwise.
Okay.
And also dealing with insurance, sometimes I get kicked off or some stupid paperwork issue or something. I found myself back in 2013. I needed some medicine, and insurance had just canceled our policy. So I found out, hey, with some Bitcoin, you can order the medicine from India. So that was my first experience with Bitcoin.
So like
And
Silk Road.
no, no,
Just
no, straight up, just order. It's
okay.
perfectly legal. And after that, I started doing a little bit of mining instead of needing to buy the Bitcoin. I like that. And that's when I bought my first I started mining on the little USB sticks.
Hmm.
I still have a few of those. Those are cute. And then I got my first S9, which immediately decided to take a shit. So I poured all my electronic knowledge into trying to fix this machine. Unfortunately, I failed because there are some uh, aspects of the technology and the board design that I didn't quite understand. So when I went to my first company working with ASICs, ASIC Master, I was trained, and within a week, it all came together. And I started training the guy who taught me those few little techniques that took me over the finish line about real electronics repair.
Hmm.
And that's who I'm working with right now. My original trainer, Austin Childress. Um, let's see. After yeah, after that, it was a just a whirlwind of fixing stuff, and I found out I like teaching repair
Hmm.
a lot better than doing the actual
Doing
repairs.
the actual
Yeah,
repairs. Okay.
so I I sell myself nowadays, not as a technician, um, but as a teacher.
Okay. So, before we dive into too much of the, technical aspects of ASIC repair, you have a quote on your LinkedIn, and so I'm going to quote you on this, and I want to dive into a little bit of the philosophical. So, your quote is, "The moment you think you're better than someone else is the instant that you're not." Can you expound a little bit on this? I think I know what you mean, and I want to kind of just riff on that for a bit.
Well, I guess it's just a wordy way of saying stay humble. Um, if you start treating people as below you, then that makes you below them. That just makes you the worst. And
Hmm.
wherever they were, you're below them.
Yeah. And I think as a teacher, for you as a teacher, but for myself as a podcaster, it's very important to recognize when you don't understand something. And then even when you do know something, there's always going to be someone who knows more than you. And
Yeah.
being able to recognize where you are weak and where you're not as strong as someone else, and just being humble and like, yeah, I might know a really good amount of knowledge in this one area, but that doesn't mean that I can't learn more. Do you feel that your students are more responsive to you because of that?
Um, well, I try to tailor my teaching after I get to know them a little bit
Mhm.
and decide how much help do they need. If I'm helping them all the same amount, then some students are going to feel um, patronized, and so it's just a student by student thing. And I do like smaller classes. I do say that for one teacher, 4 students is the optimal, and any more than that, they're all going to be losing out. Two of my favorite contracts have been for 30 days, and I've figured out it takes about 30 days to take a technician from knowing nothing to being about um, 2 boards, being able to repair 2 boards a day, and that's one in the morning, one in the afternoon,
Mhm.
and that covers all issues on a harsh board. Um, there's sub circuits on a hash board that do different little jobs, and a failure in any of them can cause the entire board to stop working, or worse, catch fire. As you could see some hash boards sitting around here at the conference. Uh, but teaching a student to being able to diagnose a hash board and then understand why that has happened, which directly leads to what needs to be done to repair it,
Mhm.
uh, takes some time. And that carries over to all the different types of circuits. There's the there's the ASIC circuit, the you know the chips that do all the math. But then there's ancillary circuits completely surrounding those. Some supply power, others transmit and receive the data. Some of them then also manage the health of the hash board, the temperature circuit, um, transceiving data to and from the brain of the ASIC machine,
Mhm.
the control board. Then there's problems with the control board, and from there, that's kind of where I stop. I don't like to work on anything above a circuit board level. Uh, Back in February, uh, in January, I trained uh, Satoki mining in Oklahoma for a month, and they had one department that was doing everything above the size of a circuit board, and then they had another department on the other side of the building just working on the circuit boards. So uh, above above the size of a circuit board is operations. I like to think you can do all kinds of repairs on the operations side. Sometimes it's just replacing a particular board, like the control board is not worth fixing.
Mhm.
The amount of uh, cost and labor to repair a uh, the circuit board, which is the control board, is not worth it. Or swapping the power supply or the fans. That's all. That's all operations,
Yeah, and the control boards seem relatively cheap. I mean,
and they are, yes.
yeah, you can get a good control board for about $150. Um,
Oh, that would be top of the line.
that yeah, well, I mean, yeah, definitely top of the line, but you can get the stock ones for, around 40, $30, depending if you're
Exactly.
getting on them eBay or used or anything like that. Um, so, most of my audience knows that I am a Bitcoin miner. I have a couple of hash boards that in one machine that I can't get to run. So, I mean, that's the only time that I've experienced a failure in these boards, but I haven't sent them off to be repaired. I haven't looked into them. I don't know exactly why they're not working. But I kind of want to know, I feel like knowing how to repair hash boards would behoove any miner, especially someone in my caliber as a home miner, somebody who likes to tinker with things. I generally tear machines apart. I actually just got an S19K Pro. It was brand new out of the box, and it had all these tapes and stickers and stuff on it. And I had somebody say, "Well, if you tear it apart, you get rid of you void the warranty." And I'm like, "Well, I don't care about the warranty," and I just dove into it. So for someone like myself, how long would it generally take? You said about 30 days to go from knowing nothing to proficiency. Is this being trained every single day, or is there a different time frame that, someone like myself, I can learn how to generally diagnose a board and then make certain repairs, let's say hash board or the heat sinks or, a general ASIC circuit fails?
Sure. A lot of people, they sell these courses on repair, basic and advanced. That's 1 and 2 weeks. So after about 80 hours, you're able to uh, certainly
Mhm.
diagnose the hash board, and uh, make some basic repairs. Like where I mentioned, there are the ASIC chips, and then there's all the ancillary circuitry around it to support that one function. Those 2 weeks will take you through repairing anything wrong with those math processors, those ASICs.
Uh-huh.
And if you wanted to be able to fix the circuitry around all of them, that would be another 2 weeks. So, well, maybe another week
Mhm.
if you just want to do one a day, but 2 weeks if you expect to be able to do two a day. Also, within the first 2 weeks, you'll learn about a circuit called the temp sensor. That that's a usual that's a big problem for a lot of machines.
What do you mean?
Uh, there are chips on the board that monitor the health of the hash board, and they're right on the leading edge of the hash board. So they're getting the coolest, moistest air, and they simply corrode through,
Okay.
and then just they need to be replaced.
Okay.
Sometimes, sometimes some of the traces that actually go to that chip and and some of the little components around it go bad. Um, that's those two. will get you probably through 70 to 80% of all repairs.
Hmm. Is that
So,
a simple repair, or is that something that, I mean, obviously soldering on a hash board is not a simple repair at all, whether no
right.
matter what you're doing. But in your world as a repair technician or a teacher in the art of technician or ASIC repairs, would that be a more simple fix, or is it something that you don't like doing? Kind of explain that a little bit.
Uh, Technically, it's simple, but your proficiency with soldering and your comfort with the tools and your ability to wrap all that up into a successful repair, that just takes time and practice. Um, so understanding it can be done rather quickly.
Hmm.
And what I tell students right off the bat is this will take some time. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, and this is just exactly how you learn. This is exactly how you do it. You can't do it any other way.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's true in most areas of life. I mean, even if you are proficient at something and you're kind of, let's say, gifted, there's always a learning curve where, it takes time for you to become good at something, and then it takes you even more time to become the best. Um, so I think understanding that, and there's this idea between like a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And when you move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, you realize that like every failure, every setback is an opportunity to learn. And so I'm sure that you kind of see that a lot. And from what you just said, I think that's kind of something that you're trying to distill to your students.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. As a teacher, that's that's a primary responsibility.
Yeah.
Moving your student into a growth, what do you call it?
Growth mindset.
A growth mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Maybe they've had things handed to them their whole life. Uh, maybe maybe the field is entirely new,
Hmm.
and actually, I have I like to show off this little wooden puzzle I have. It's one of the round. It's the round ball that you take apart. Um, I call that the aptitude test. So I'll show them this wooden puzzle, and I'll just show it to them, and then I'll take it apart real quick, and I'll tell them put this back together. And just by watching them and seeing how they approach the problem, seeing seeing how they're reacting whilst trying to solve the problem,
Hmm.
will tell me almost instantly whether or not they're going to be a good tech. And while I do teach anyone who's willing to pay the price uh, for my own techs, I like to make sure that they're uh, they're cut out for the
Yeah.
frustration that's going to be encountered on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Some days, I remember when I was first training, and I knew a lot about electronics. First learning to repair these machines. Repairing them has gotten easier. I trained on L3s and S9s.
Hmm.
Um, some of the boards were so frustrating. I was like, in the first month, I I'm sure there were like at least 3 or 4 days when I was like, I suck so bad. I'm I'm gonna quit. But Austin was there, and he's like, no, 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 come back tomorrow. We'll continue on, and we're just gonna take this board and throw it in the no fix pile. That that was uh that was really helpful. And I got through, and they've improved their processes and even the design of the ASICs on how they're soldered and the pins underneath the chip. um, have improved steadily. So
Well, I want to go back to what you kind of said there is like you have an aptitude test for your specific repair techs. You did a class today teaching people how to do some basic repairs. And one thing I was hearing as that class was finishing up, I heard people going into it, oh man, I'm really excited to learn how to repair some of these boards. I think it's interesting and I think I should know it as a Bitcoin miner. And then you hear from the exact same people, I think I'm just gonna outsource this and send it off to someone else to repair.
yeah, that's not what the class was at all. That was uh, if I had to describe the class, it's not it wasn't it's not a repair class.
Okay.
It's an intro to the materials and the techniques that we use to repair.
Okay.
And in the process of learning about um, these pastes and fluids and um, chemicals, that if you discover, yeah, this is not something I want to do,
Yeah.
that's that's just that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people get this idea in their head, whether it's, Bitcoin mining, ASIC repair, or, construction or anything else really. You kind of have this idea in your head of what it would be like to do something. I remember my first experience mining Bitcoin before I understood what industrial mining meant. I had this big dream. Oh, I'm gonna be an industrial miner. I'm gonna start mining Bitcoin on a large scale. I'm gonna make millions of dollars. It's gonna be so much fun. I'm gonna be this great Bitcoin miner. And then, it was about 2 short months before I quickly realized, like, oh man, that is a lot harder than you think it is. It's a lot more difficult, and I'm not sure if it's worth the sweat, tears, blood, and pain that goes into building an industrial mine. And so I'm sure you see a similar thing. Do you see a lot of students in your classes kind of just give up after a while and just quit altogether, or do they persevere and make it through, become at least somewhat proficient in the art of repair? Or
uh I don't know, some of my students just want like you to be able to fix a couple of their own boards. uh Most of them are students of a company that I'm contracting for.
okay,
So I'm not really always aware of their uh their final disposition, whatever, if they stick with it or um but the students that I trained in January, Satoki, uh they're just a very small group of guys, just like you were saying, who wanted to uh get into the whole business, and they've been they've been just astonishingly successful.
hmm,
They've got their own mine now. Uh, they've got a very successful repair uh, repair center, and it's uh, it's been very rewarding to be a part of that.
yeah, I can imagine as a teacher, the most rewarding experience you can have is having a class full of students that not only enjoy it or are good at it, but they come away with something from your class. So, I want to ask, what is your advice to people who are curious about ASIC repair and like not exactly sure where to start? Is there, you said that there were courses that you could get online. Is there like a beginning soldering kit that you can get to start? Where should people just, get off zero?
Oh, um, gosh, I guess that we just to get online, go on YouTube, uh, watch some of the pros of micro soldering. Like the guy learned uh, I took normal soldering and took it to surface mount soldering.
Hmm.
Was Louis Rossman. He does or he did a lot of MacBook repair videos on, and they're still on YouTube. Uh, he talks. He just hundreds of hours of just going through and fixing stuff and take some of the tools and uh, consumables that people like him and Austin Childress. He also has a lot of videos on YouTube. Those are ASIC specific. Um, just just get in there and start soldering.
Hmm.
Get some of the recommended equipment and just um, start on some broken stuff.
What are some of those recommended equipment? Obviously, you need like a soldering station, and I know you can get those, cheaper, but you could get them also more expensive. What are some of the other tools that you need?
I like to recommend stations and equipment as cheap as I can. Uh, Later, once you're familiar with that equipment, and you'll start to see some of the deficiencies, and you'll be like, oh yeah, maybe I do need to buy this next step up that was like twice as expensive as um, the base the base kit. Instead of like buying the expensive equipment right off and realizing, yeah, I don't want to do this.
Hmm.
This stinks. I want to outsource.
Yeah.
So um, some of the basic equipment that I recommend um, is a T12 soldering station with a basic hot air uh, handheld device. If you go advanced from there, I recommend uh, it's called a Sugion, and it's just a replacement for that basic hot air uh, wand that
Hmm.
the kit comes with. There's We use a leaded solder paste from any manufacturer like Mechanic, or um, you can even get really expensive stuff from like Amtech. But then there's also and that solder paste is what's known as 183 degrees Celsius melting paste.
Hmm.
Um, there's stuff that melt at a higher temperature, and there's stuff melt at lower temperatures. But this is the right stuff for hashboard repair. There's fluxes that keep your work flow very nice, and keep your solder beads nice and shiny, and allow you to place components properly. That that is flux. You can buy flux in the paste, which is called an RMA 223, and there is also a liquid that's really good, and that's Kester 186 or 187. I forget, but there's only one.
Hmm.
You search for what the other, you won't find anything.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things, and
Yeah, it just the list goes on and on.
exactly, exactly.
Tweezers and
Um,
lights, magnifiers.
yeah.
Yeah, you just gotta get out there and watch see what people are using, compile a list.
Okay. Well, I kind of want to dive into some of the hashboard repairs that you do, or that you've seen. There's tons of different series of and brands, models of these machines. Um, is an ASIC an ASIC, or are they all kind of different? Do the difference between micro BT and Bitmain, is there a big difference there? And then, like, let's dive a little bit into the actual repairs that you're seeing on the different machines.
Um, okay, so the ASICs, I mean, ASIC is a time tested technology.
Yeah.
So they are all basically the same at, at the core. You have a chip and it's full of these math processors, like hundreds of them on one chip. It's they're all multi-core, if you want to say it that way. ASICs are made like that, and then there's a couple little places on the chip that um, do housekeeping and data transmission and things
Okay,
like that.
so there's not much of a difference between like
Not much,
ASIC chips
not
on
much
an
at all.
S17 or an S19.
No,
Okay, what
um,
about the hash boards themselves?
the hash boards themselves, they differ greatly in topology, but not technology.
So like the size and the form factor, but not necessarily the way they run.
They're basically all the same size now too.
Okay.
Um, but how the chips are lined up.
Hmm.
Um, if you look at a K Pro, the chips are in rows. Oh, K Pro, S, the XP, the S21, they're lined up in vertical rows. Um, in other machines, they are um, like like an L7.
Hmm.
They are lined up in two banks of vertical rows. The power flows in one way and comes out the other way. It just how many chips, how many there's always a start point and an end point.
Hmm.
And how many chips are in each row? Three, two, and S19 has two abreast from start to finish, and they snake through, and just exactly how they're laid out changed, but not the fact that there's always a first chip and there's always a last chip.
Hmm.
There's always um, power flowing, depending on how you look at power flow, positive to negative, negative to positive. Uh, it's always flowing. It's always flowing across the board in one direction. Um, if you look at any other circuit board, like a radio or um, anything else, they have a little power here, little power pin here, and a little power pin here, and a little power pin over here, and they run in all different ways. But hash boards, except for the direction the chips are laid, um, they're all they're all start to finish.
Okay, so these boards, the technology itself is relatively similar. The way that they're laid out is different. Do you see different failure points between like the S17s? I know that the S17s had a lot of problems. The S19s were a pretty rugged machine. And then we're hearing stuff about the S21s coming out now. We're hearing failures in those. Is it similar failures? Are they different failures? And if they're different, why are they failing? Is it because of those changes in design flow?
Uh, generally, the the failure rate and the common modes of failure are directly directly correspond to how they're treated.
Okay.
I have a batch of S21s uh, sitting on sitting on my shelf at back in West Texas, and they were literally they were literally literally boiled to death,
Oiled to death?
boiled
Boiled to death.
boiled in immersion.
Okay.
Um, I was replacing anywhere between 3 and 15 of the ASICs that were just snapped in half
Mhm.
from
And
from
you
excessive heat.
yeah, specifically he's talking about the actual chips because there's this misnomer in the community. They call the ASIC the entire computer, but you're
Yeah,
specifically
that
talking about the chips on each individual hash board.
yes,
Okay.
that's yeah. The chip is the ASIC, the application specific integrated circuit.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's yeah, yeah. I don't know whoever decided to start calling three hash boards and a control board
An ASIC.
an ASIC.
It's a computer.
Yeah, that's a computer.
Yeah.
That's a math processor.
So, the most common machine that we see, well, especially for me, I don't know if it's the most common, but it's the S19 series. And you talk about a lot of the different failures comes from different types of usage.
Yeah.
What is the most common failure point in this machine?
Uh, and again, it's the conditions in which it's run. If you're anywhere other than West Texas and the Sonoran Desert, New Mexico, Arizona, um, it's going to be those temperature sensors
Okay.
because anywhere else is going to have some humidity in the air. East Coast machines are uh, they have they have leading edge corrosion. They rust
Hmm.
of, for all intents and purposes. It's it's not a brown rust, but it's because it's copper, it's a green rust, and the legs on these chips will just disintegrate,
Hmm.
and so will some of the traces, the little lines on the board,
Yeah.
like my shirt. Uh, they will get eaten away. So, um, like when I said 4 weeks will get you competent to repair a couple boards a day, that's all the stuff you're going to be learning.
Hmm.
Um, how to fix those traces that are bad, how to replace the entire uh, ASIC, and yeah, there's so much.
Obviously the chips do all of the work. That's what hashes. At what point do you look at one of these boards and just say, this is a trash pile board, it's no use in fixing? Is there something specific that breaks on the board and you just like throw it away? Is there multiple different things that happen that you're just like, screw this board?
Uh, the point at which we decide whether we're going to scrap a board for parts or not is it's one of two things. One, we've spent too much time on the board hunting down weird problems, uh, not able to isolate the issue.
Hmm.
And the other one is physical burn damage. We're not going to try and repair that
Okay.
unless unless again there's exceptions to everything. Uh, unless it's very localized and we can grind that area out and drop in some kind of circuit on a little board, little daughter board that can replace the function of that circuit. Um,
Have you done that many times before, or is
yeah, I mean that's called a boost replacement.
uh-huh.
Um, Also, sometimes the some people do moss. The moss sometimes it's without going into it. That's a switch on the board that either turns the board on and off.
Hmm.
Sometimes there's usually four, maybe five of those, and if they go bad, uh, they basically weld themselves to the board, and you have to chip them off, grind them off. Um, some people will drop in a daughter board replacement for that function.
Hmm.
Uh, once you've cleaned that board really well and gotten all the burn out of that area, uh, sometimes we just jumper it. We call that the Moss delete.
Okay.
Um, if the board is on a technician's desk, it's probably beyond half of it's at the point where most of its usefulness is behind it.
Hmm.
So if we could just get that back out, hashing again, uh, it's a good day for everyone. And if we can do that at a low enough price point to make the repair realistic for the customer and the technician.
Yeah. So it's similar like repairing. I come from a, mechanic background too. So it's like if you crash your car and the car is only worth 500 bucks or $1,000, the repair costs $2,000, it's not really worth repairing the board or the car. So it's kind of the same thing with the board, right?
Yeah.
Okay. For people who want to get into hashboard repair on like from a career standpoint, do you recommend that they hire someone like yourself, or like maybe they've done hashboard repair before and they want to develop their skills even further? Where do you send them? Is it the same as the DIYers, or is it something different? Do you recommend they come to you in a physical location?
Um, if they really want to do this, I think that maybe getting hired with a bigger company would be the way to go.
Hmm.
I mean, if you've got the 5 grand for a soldering course, which is basically uh, just fixing broken stuff, then then you can learn that. That's fine.
Hmm.
But most people who are looking to get into a new career uh, are trying to get out of an old one, don't have a lot of money, um, but have the desire to learn a new skill. Then yeah, go with a company, the bigger company like Compass has a repair center in Denver. There's other companies who go out to sites
Hmm.
and do repairs right there. That's my current employer, ASIC Repair Parts and Austin Childress. Uh, so if you wanted to do that, joining an existing uh, outfit is what you're going to do.
Okay. What is your advice for people who want to get into ASIC repair?
Well, you've got two options, uh, and we've discussed both of them. You can either uh, go out on your own, depending on whether you're a go-getter and you think you can do this on your own, get get the parts and get the kits and do all the learning on your own. Maybe with a by joining one of Scott Offord's Telegram groups like Minor Repair
Hmm.
and just asking a lot of questions, um, getting some broken boards and trying to fix them, or uh, sign up with an existing company.
Okay,
You got you got two ways you can go.
for sure. I'm very interested in learning, I don't want it as a career option. I don't see myself ever being a proficient repair technician, but I definitely think that, as I kind of alluded to at the beginning of this, is like it would behoove myself to be able to make certain diagnosis and repairs. So, for example, I mentioned that I have these three hash boards that I can't get to hash. Where would I start to diagnose what's wrong with these boards before I decide to send it out to someone like yourself or, someone who repairs boards?
Uh, as I just mentioned, minor repair on Telegram.
Hmm.
Uh, you just ask for help. They will, someone, maybe me, I don't know, will ask you, let's see your log. And when you log into your miner,
Hmm.
uh, there's a button in the lower left-hand corner,
The kernel log.
or or on the left-hand side,
Yeah,
general, uh, is the log, and that's going to tell you everything you need to know
really.
to
Okay.
to start. Um, that will help help the person who's helping you isolate where in the ASIC machine has the failure occurred. Has it occurred in the power supply? Uh, has it occurred in the control board? If you can't reach your machine at all, if you can't log in to even see your log, then that's a red flag on the control board. Um, or if it's one of the three hash boards, it's gonna all be in the log.
Hmm. Well, interesting enough for me, I've tried several different control boards. All of the control boards I know work perfectly fine, and I'm not getting anything out of the three hash boards, all three. And the person that I got the machine from beforehand swears up and down that the hash board's hashed. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat because this was the first machine I'd ever received, and I was trying to do something while it was running and I popped the cover plate off of it and I touched the bus bar and it made a little popping sound. And so I'm curious, did I fry the board completely at that point? Or because it was during an initiation boot up phase, it was taking 15 or 20 minutes to do something and it never initialized. Did I kind of destroy those hash boards at that point, or is it something kind of possibly underlying that I'm not noticing?
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't hurt that. That's all low voltage stuff. Uh, uh, car battery voltages. Nothing, nothing shocking. Nothing
Okay.
too shocking.
Okay.
But it's all in the log.
Yeah.
The log will reveal all.
Okay. So the first thing I should do is get it up and running, go and take a look at the log and see what the log says and
Yeah,
go to the minor repair chat and start just asking questions in there.
yeah. There's no uncertainty. Uh, it's all there.
Okay. Well, hopefully I can get that machine up and running because then I'd have three ASICs instead of two, or three computers instead of two. I apologize. So let's see. We're gonna start wrapping this up a little bit. I've got a few more questions for you, but what is the most difficult part of ASIC repair?
Um, Staying sane through through the hours and hours of being hunched over a hash board, going cross-eyed, finding fixing those components that are a quarter the size of a piece of rice, um, and coming back the next day and doing the exact same thing.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's rewarding as hell when you're successful, but there's a lot of times when you're not, and there are a lot of hours that have to go that you have to put in before that happens.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, if maybe it's not backbreaking, but it can be, being hunched over in these awkward positions could be kind of uncomfortable, and then you're spending hours and hours on something that doesn't work out. It kind of goes back to our the beginning of the podcast is like it takes a certain mindset to be able to get over that failure of I just spent, 5, 6 hours on a board and still nothing.
Yeah, at some point you really do need. I I said go-getters can um, watch enough videos and just hack on their own hardware to start repairing. But at some point, you're going to need uh, the mentorship of somebody established to uh, tell you you're on the right track. Just stick with it. You'll get there.
Hmm.
Or um, no, you're doing things all backwards.
Doing it all backwards and you need to restart.
You need to rethink your methodology
Got you.
and put you back on the path, so you can be confident you're going to lead to success.
Mm. And you find those people in the ASIC repair chats or just having a teacher like yourself.
Exactly.
Okay. Well,
Like
this is
the company I worked with earlier, Satoki,
uh-huh.
uh, they've got my mentorship for life.
Yeah. Well, so as a repair technician, you see kind of the underbelly of that world. You see kind of where things are heading. You're also a Bitcoiner. You've dabbled in Bitcoin mining. Are you still currently Bitcoin mining?
No, I don't have any mining machines at the
Okay.
moment.
So what do you see the future of Bitcoin mining looking like? Where do you think it's heading?
Um,
Feel free to give us any unpopular opinions.
I guess it's gonna continue on how it has been. You may able to you may able to be able to go to meetups, get a group of guys together, uh, and through efforts like Scott here is putting together, learn how to build a mine.
Mhm.
And as Satoki started out intending to do until until they actually did.
Mhm.
And that's a really wonderful thing because the more small mines that we can put on the network, the more healthy the network is.
Mhm.
Uh, some would look at the network as it is now and look at the look at who's doing all the mining and how I don't know what the numbers are, but they can say over half of the mining is all big companies.
Yeah.
It it's easy to say that,
Yeah.
and um, that'll could continue on until uh, adoption continues to expand and people uh, in in places who have the funds or can get the funds to start a mine are able to do so. I wanted to talk about something I touched on the my on my first podcast,
Mhm.
and that was what a danger quantum computing is going to be to Bitcoin, and that someday, and nobody can say when. Everybody always says it's 10 years away, and they've been saying that for 20 years.
Mhm.
Somebody's going to wake up and they're going to find a whole bunch of old lost Bitcoin addresses have been emptied. And then we're going to find out that that was that the SHA-256 was correct by quantum.
Hmm.
Now, SHA-256 is a um, what do they call it? It's not quantum safe. It's what do I say? It's
Resistant.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
quantum
quantum
resistant.
resistant. And at some point in the future, enough people will get together. It's like it needs to be 51%,
Hmm.
and they'll make changes to the core software, um, and it will be made even more resistant. So Bitcoin itself will always be resistant to quantum. However, for quantum advances, uh, Bitcoin will stay ahead of it.
Hmm.
But the wallets that were generated before that update was made available, uh,
Those won't
they'll
be
be
as,
they'll be emptied,
yeah, they
and
won't be as
that's going to be
resistant.
a big hit.
Yeah.
That's going to be the sell off the Germans did
Hmm.
recently that tanked Bitcoin. That's going to make that look
Yeah.
like a walk in the park. But
So do you think that Satoshi's coins are at risk in that scenario
yeah, that those wallets were made with the
with the Genesis wallets, correct?
yeah, the Genesis wallets, and yeah, they're the only ones in danger. And that's I mean, it's a good chunk of change,
Yeah.
but it's not a majority.
Hmm. So do you think that puts the Bitcoin network at risk, or do you think it's kind of a drop in the bucket compared to where we'll be at that time?
When I well, given the price of a Bitcoin, it's going to be big. It's going to be big news. But exchanges and people who keep their uh, wallets updated will be unaffected,
Mm.
uh, except for the dip that's going to happen
Yeah.
when these coins suddenly disappear.
Yeah, they'll flow into the market and it'll just
Yeah,
cause the price of Bitcoin to crash. So, well, you've been in Bitcoin for quite a while, since 2013, correct? That's what
yeah.
you said earlier. So, I like to ask this question on the podcast, and if anybody's seen the podcast, they know. This is one of my favorite questions to ask. But what does Bitcoin mean to you?
What does Bitcoin mean?
You can take it however deep and philosophical you'd like, maybe keep it surface level if you want to, but yeah, what does Bitcoin mean to you?
I mean, fundamentally, Bitcoin is freedom from the middleman, the trustless currency.
Hmm.
You send it, um, you send it to whoever you want without with the help of the miners, the ones processing the transactions, and it's yeah, it's freedom to send money to whoever you want.
Freedom of transaction, peer to peer, permissionless.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, at the end of the day, you are a teacher. You teach people how to repair ASICs. Where do you want to send people so that they can link up with you, find out how to get trained? Do you have a Telegram? Do you have a X account or LinkedIn you'd like to send people to?
My two primary forms of communication on the internet are LinkedIn, and you could just search my name on LinkedIn, and then also Telegram.
Okay.
I go by an older moniker, Minor Medic.
Okay.
I created that back in my earlier days with my first S9 and bitcointalk.org. That's still my username there. Uh, but now I just have everybody call me Maestro Jurgen.
Where did the name Maestro Jurgen come from?
Where did Maestro come from? Oh, I have uh, this one time I volunteered for an organization, and they were all fancy, and they had a vest you could wear, and you could put a Velcro name on your vest. And I don't I don't know where it ever came from, but I said Maestro. So now I have it on my bag, and just Maestro. I mean, and in Latin, in the Latin languages, Maestro means teacher.
Yeah.
So
Kind of a fitting name for
it
you then.
perfect and stuck.
Awesome. Well, Jurgen, we're gonna make sure that we link everything to in the description of the podcast. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun. As I said before, this was our first in-person live episode. I'm not sure what the reaction will
My
be.
second.
Your second, well, there you go. See, it was my first. I've definitely had lots of conversations with Bitcoiners, but on the podcast, this is the first one that we've gotten to do live. I do like this dynamic, but it's very difficult cost-wise to go fly out to different places all the time. But I really appreciate you being here today, man, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your time here in Brainerd, Minnesota, at the mining conference. And yeah, just thank you for being here.
Well, it was quite a journey to get here. Yes, I was supposed to be here Thursday. I got stopped by a train that was not moving out in the boondocks of West Texas. So getting around that uh was a trip before I got pulled over because my plates were expired last month. then I got then I got to the airport just as my flight was leaving, and got the next flight yesterday. That was that had two layovers. So then I finally got here, and I can firmly say that the journey was worth it. I'm having a lot of fun here.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that you're having fun. I'm sorry that you have gone through an experience just to get here, but sometimes those things are just inevitable. And, maybe who's to say that the universe was just saying you need to slow down and not get there so fast. I don't know why, but, you know.
The thought certainly occurred to me. Certainly,
It's like, why are you doing this?
I was thinking. I had mixed feelings that
Yeah.
um why is this happening? And
Yeah.
it's like, well, maybe there is a reason.
Yeah.
We'll find we'll we'll, we'll find out. Get to the end of the journey, and then you'll know.
Awesome. Well, guys, this has been another episode of the Build a Mind podcast. I appreciate everyone for being here live, and we will see you guys next time.